Hi, everyone. Happy winter solstice. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. So this is the video that I've been dying to share with you guys because I've discovered the mythology of the pomegranate. Now, I don't know if you guys have also had pomegranates related to Christmas because my mother always made sure we had a pomegranate at the bottom of our stocking every Christmas morning. And I really never understood the mythology about it. And so I started looking into it. And it's fascinating because it's in many different cultures and many different religions. It's in the Bible, and we're going to get into it. But what it's what led me to understand the importance of it was the fact that it's in the tarot cards. It's in the Empress card and the High Priestess, which I mentioned when I decoded the Ripple Grateful Dead song in my last video. I wanted to go into those cards a little bit more, but when I started to go into the research on those cards, it like cracked open the pomegranate basically, and all these little jewels came flying out of it, and it started to make me realize the real importance of the pomegranate and how it relates to the feminine body. Okay, so it's really relating to the divine feminine. So I want to go into some screenshots and also some of the mythology that is related to it, and how it's tied also to the Virgin Mary and to Jesus, okay, and to Persephone, who goes into the underworld. So it's in all cultures. And there's some really cool stuff about it that you're going to love because it's tied to our present day and some of the symbolism that we use every day. So you can see here, this is going back to the 8th century BC, terracotta vase of the pomegranate. So it's been in our culture for thousands of years, really, hundreds and thousands of years. It's really an important part of the rebirth symbolism. And you can see there's many paintings of the pomegranate. Now, these are kind of like little jewels, right, that pop out. And depending on how you cut the pomegranate, you get esoteric knowledge from just by cutting it. And I'll go into that a little bit more. But you can see that esoterically, this fruit is being painted many times, and it has a really important mythology to it. So here's the pomegranate history and the origins. The pomegranate, a rosy hued fruit, bursting with plentiful ruby red, jeweled like seeds, is one of the oldest cultivated fruits. The ancient Greeks believed it to have been planted by the goddess of love. So it's tied to Venus and Aphrodite on the island of Cyprus. Here was a news article in 2005 where the pomegranate was the fruit of the gods. It seems both the Bible and the Quran were right. The exotic pomegranate is indeed a gift from God. And then there's talking about, the price of it going up as supermarket sales of its ruby red juice reach new heights. Okay, so, but it's because it does have immortality related to it because of its properties. Now, people have done, when I started looking into this, I found out there's other YouTube channels that have gone into the whole mythology of pomegranates from different perspectives, but I'm trying to bring them all together, okay? Not just the Bible's perspective, not just Islam or Greek, it's like, or the tarot. I want you to understand that how it's interwoven through all the cultures. It was known in early English as the apple of Granada. And the French term for pomegranate is grenade, okay, has given its name to the military grenade. Now it's like because they pull off the top, right, of this round thing, and that's a grenade. So pulling off the top of the pomegranate is symbolic. And we'll get into why. Okay, the pomegranate is a spiny, deciduous shrub or tree. It's red-orange tubular flowers that transform into large red fruits containing multitudes of seeds, rich in vitamin C and fiber. The seeds are eaten raw, canned, or added to warm dishes, and the juice is drunk as the early winter tonic. So drinking, that's why it comes out more in the wintertime, because it helps your immune system. So the sacred symbol of fertility, mortality, and the underworld. So here's how we're getting into Persephone, right? That when Pluto rapes her Hades, Pluto rapes her and takes her into the underworld. She holds a pomegranate as well. The fruit has been associated with many Greek goddesses, including Persephone and Hera. Now, Hera is Juno, okay, Zeus's wife, also known as Hera, depending on Roman or Greek mythology. Ripe in late autumn and considered the fruit of the dead, because it's tied to Pluto and the underworld, and the fruit can be included in early winter ceremonies, celebrating the change of seasons, honoring the ancestors, reminding us of the inevitability of death. Okay, so it ties to death, but it also ties to rebirth. So the modern Greeks give the pomegranate, both the fruit itself and objects decorated with artistic representation of the fruit, as a gift, as housewarming and abundance. So when people buy a home, they'll use the pomegranate as a gift, and also at weddings. So the pomegranate is still a strong symbolic significance for the Greeks, okay, including Christmas Day. It is customary to adorn the table with pomegranates, known as polysporia, meaning many-seeded. On New Year's Day, it is traditional to break a pomegranate on the ground. So all the jewels kind of open up, right? And the crystal used with it is garnet, okay? So it's, that jewel is tied to pomegranate. On moving into the new home, house guests traditionally bring pomegranates as a symbol of abundance, fertility, and good luck for the new owner. And then it ties into this, pomegranate seeds are used in koliva, a dish prepared for memorial services as a symbol of sweetness of the heavenly kingdom. So they're used at funerals, okay? So it's tied to immortality. The Babylonians believed chewing the seeds before battle made them invincible. And here also the ancient Egyptians used it to be buried with pomegranates. Okay, so the loose thinking behind this custom was that the qualities of sexual energy and fertility that the blood red exterior and the seedy interior of the pomegranate conveyed would help the interred Egyptian to be reborn. So it's tied to rebirth. And this is all pre-Christianity, right? So include the pomegranate in New Year celebrations of ancestors. I said this before. It says the fruit of the dead. A special meal can be prepared from the seeds, honoring those who have passed and left in offering to your human or non-human ancestors. The rites of passage ceremonies can also feature the fruit as a symbol of death and rebirth. Eat a single seed as a reenactment of Persephone's choice, or drink from a special goblet of the juice as an act of acceptance and willing participation in the cycle of birth, death, rebirth. So I'm going to drink some pomegranate juice tomorrow on the winter solstice in a bonfire, because it's symbolizing the rebirth of the sun. Offer thanks to the life-giving abundance that is symbolized in its multitudes of seeds and the blood red juice and its fruits. So it's like you're drinking blood, right? But it's pomegranate juice because it helps your body with its it's like it helps your immune system. Some say the goddess Persephone, picking wildflowers, mostly notably the Narcissus, when Hades came upon her in a field and stole her away. So most accounts say that Persephone was taken against her will, a young maiden caught unaware by the god of the underworld. When Persephone's mother, the goddess Demeter, discovered that her daughter was missing, Demeter scoured the earth looking for her. Upon hearing that her daughter had been taken to the underworld, she begged Zeus to intervene and return her daughter to the living world. Zeus agreed to help return Persephone as long as Persephone had not eaten any fruit that grows in the underworld. Okay, and when Demeter saw them, she rushed forth, as does Maenad, down through thick wooded mountain, and Persephone on the other side. When she saw her mother's sweet eyes, left the chariot and horses and leaped down to run to her, and falling upon her neck, embraced her. So she came out of the chariot, and this ties to the chariot card that we talked about in my last video. Okay, but Persephone had eaten a single seed of the pomegranate tree that grew in Hades' orchard. So she was bound to spend part of the year in the underworld with Hades and was allowed only to spend part of the year above ground with her mother. So that whole thing of why she's partly in Hades and partly, here in, they say, above ground, is because of the pomegranate seed, or her eating the forbidden fruit. So it's known as the original forbidden fruit. Okay, now they changed to the apple or the golden apple. Okay, it can be either one, but the original forbidden fruit, some say, is the pomegranate. Okay, it makes sense to me because it's totally tied to the feminine, okay? And the whole seed of fertility. And it goes even into more depth of why it's so important. The myth of Persephone, one of the disappearing and reappearing of birth and rebirth, was the origin of many festivals in ancient Greece, including the Eleusinian mysteries, whose secrets were so closely guarded, little is known about them. So it's really tied to the Eleusinian mysteries, this fruit. Okay? One festival that we do know a bit about is that in ancient Greece, after the harvest, a 3-day feast occurred devoted to the goddess Demeter. Like Demeter is like the goddess of earth, right? It's like abundancy, growing plants. She's the mother of Persephone. The 3rd day was devoted to women, where pomegranate seeds were eaten to guarantee many children and much prosperity. And it's because it's a seed. It's the seed of life. Okay. The other stories have that pomegranates originating in Iranian Afghanistan. The pomegranate is a symbolic fruit signifying beauty, love, marriage, fertility, birth, rebirth, hope, prosperity, the eternity, and strangely was used in ancient Greek as a form of birth control. I don't know how that was being used, but they're stating that here. Persephone and the pomegranate, the story of love and abduction in ancient Greek mythology, has Persephone, daughter of Demeter. Yeah, she's the goddess of the harvest, agriculture, kidnapped by Hades. Yeah, so we know that already. Okay, and this is the koliva, which is this dish that they make for funerals. Okay, it was also called pansperma, seeds of sperm, meaning a mixture of seeds and nuts. Okay, this is interesting, pansperma, because the god Pan is tied to the underworld, right? And it's the seed, the sperm. So pansperma was consumed at pagan festivals in Anthristeria, one of the 4 Athenian festivals honoring Dionysus, who is the god of wine. But is it like the god of the pomegranate juice, this red wine? That's what I'm starting to think now. Held in the month of springtime. Okay, so it's all tied to the spring festival, which is all tied to Dionysus. I've gone through that before. Now that's all tied to the rebirth. So here's this dish has wheat kernels, nuts, raisins, sugar, pomegranate seeds, symbolizing rebirth and resurrection. So here we're getting into the resurrection. Okay, and then this fruit was associated with women's blood. So it's also tied to the menstrual blood. Okay, so it's really crazy. It's like, wow. It's not surprising then that the pomegranate is commonly connected to the goddesses. This fruit was sacred to Hera, the queen of Olympus and the protectress of marriage. Now, Hera is Juno, like I said before. It's the month of June. So again, it's like summertime when weddings are always happening, right? That's why many people get married in June. It's because she's the protectress of marriage. Okay? And then majestically seated, holding a scepter in one hand and a pomegranate in the other. Okay, so then the pomegranate has a calyx shaped like crown. Okay, so it has a little crown on the top of the pomegranate. In Jewish tradition, it has been seen as the original design of the proper crown. Like, this is crazy. It's like, that's why the royal family, the queen has this red velvet, material in the crown. So here we have the royal crown, or one of the royal crowns, and it definitely does look like a pomegranate. And the reason I believe that is because the Fabergé egg is known as the pomegranate egg, and it has the calyx crown on top. Now, I started thinking about how this all ties into the House of Dragon, which is one of the shows with the Game of Thrones. And they always have, it's really weird at the beginning of the show, they just show blood running through stone, right? And it's all about the dragon house, right? So when I'm looking at a pomegranate and I was peeling it, I was like, this looks exactly like dragon skin or little clusters of a beehive. Okay, so I started to think, oh my God, this is crazy. So I ended up making this dragon to show you. It's kind of not a really good attempt, but you can see how it looks similar to the dragon, and it's like the dragon blood, right? So I think this is all tying in, and this also ties into the dragon Plantagenet, which is to do with Wales, and their symbol is a red dragon, right? So this is all symbolizing, to me, the blood moon and immortality. So this is the proper crown, is the pomegranate. And now you can see here the calyx. It does, it looks like a crown. I've been counting them. Most of them have 6. Some of them, it looks like they have 5, but that's the crown. There you go. There's the royal crown. Now, when you go into the etymology of calyx, it comes up in English as the chalice. So it's the cup. And look at these other words that come up with it. It's quite fascinating. It has vagina is the husk. It's a bud, right? It's also tied to the egg, the shell, eggshell. So this has really brought me to oh my God, higher understanding of what's going on in the sky. And I'm so excited about this because it's just confirming more and more and more. I'm starting to understand the important times of the year relating to all this. And I'm not going to tell you because I'm super excited about it. I'm going to give you a hint. I found the great moon year cycle. It's magic numbers and it repeats itself, and I'm blown away by it. Okay, and it does tie all into these topics with the egg and the sperm. Okay, so anyhow, so this is a bud, it's a chalice, so it's like a little cup. And so here they talk about the calyx is a cup-like cavity or structure. So that crown is like a cup, okay, and you're drinking from that cup. Okay, so that is amazing. Now, when you look at the sky, here we have December 23rd, 2 days after the winter solstice. We have a new moon. It's not an eclipse because it's not on the ecliptic, okay? It's a little bit below, but it's in the Golden Gate. And you have to remember, this is an egg, okay? So the winter solstice is tied to the golden egg, okay? And the moon is there doing a new moon, rebirth. Okay, so this is a very important Christmas because of this. And this is when they would celebrate Saturnalia Day. Okay, it was on December 23rd. It's actually called Sigillaria Day. It's part of Saturnalia. Okay, we also have Mercury and Venus in Sagittarius, this is all to do with the 9th house of your higher mind and spirituality. So, you need to alchemize your heart to your mind, and this is part of Venus and Mercury being so close in this constellation at this time is going to make you feel lots of good luck and lots of positive energy, okay? Because Sagittarius brings positivity, okay, and good luck, okay? If you're working with his energies and you're working to get into your higher mind, okay? Now, the crown over here, Corona Borealis, is all tied to, Ophiuchus, and this is with the upper house of Scorpio, which is tied to transformation and the beginning of your sexual energies, right? This starts in your hips. Scorpio rules your hips, and it goes up into your I am, which is ruled by Aries in the first house of self. Okay, so it goes from 8th house to first house, and this is your Mars energy, okay, going up your spine. And you get the crown. Okay, so here we got a crown. This crown actually looks like a city. It's like a doorway you're going into this crown, okay? So I just want you to understand that this Christmas is really, a nice positive energy. Now here we go into this Catherine, okay, badge depicts the pomegranate. So this was, I can't remember who this was about. So many people I've been researching lately. But Catherine's badge, you can Google it. It's all tied to the crown being used with the pomegranate. Okay? So this, I see this red material is part of this pomegranate. Okay? So it's like resurrection. It's the Christian church is the sign of Christ's resurrection. It would have been seen as the promise of heirs and marriages should have brought. Her motto was humble and loyal. Okay, the statue of Hera is seated on a throne. It is huge, made of gold and ivory, and is the work of Polyphetus. She is wearing a crown with graces and seasons worked upon it. And in one hand, she carries the pomegranate, and in the other, the scepter. So here we have the tarot card. The Empress tarot card is basically Juno, Hera, okay, Zeus's wife. About the pomegranate, I must say nothing, for its story is somewhat of a holy mystery. Oh yeah, it is a holy mystery because it's tied to the graces and the seasons, and this is tied to Venus. Okay, the artwork of Sandro Botticelli is tied to, the birth of Venus is tied to the graces, the Hera, the seasons, okay? And it's like they're all the divine feminine, like Juno, Persephone, they're all just different phases of the moon, okay? I've explained this in my moon teachings on my online school, and it is all the phases of the moon. And this is what I have to write a book about because it's too complex just to tell you guys in a video. Okay, so here we have the Empress card. Okay, and she has pomegranates. Originally, she had pomegranates all over her dress, and she's holding the scepter. And this is Venus. So she is Juno, and she basically is the mother here. Okay, and the mother form of the moon. So the depiction of Hera, often depicted with a crown, a lotus-tipped scepter, and a pomegranate, which is the symbol of marriage. Her plant was a willow. Her sacred birds were a cockatoo, a hawk, a crow, and of course the peacock. They show the peacock all the time. I know Adele and Oprah, when Adele did her interview with Oprah, they were joking around about the peacock. Okay. Now, here we have Rhea. Okay? This was born to the earth goddess Gaia and the sky god Uranus. Okay? So she's the daughter of earth and heaven. Okay? Uranus is heaven, Gaia is earth. One of the 12 or 13 Titan children. 12 or 13, these are the constellations. Okay? According to Hesiod, Uranus imprisoned all his children. Okay, and he didn't like Cyclops and the Hecatonacheries. They were, there was this whole thing. I've done a video about this. Like he wasn't looking after them, and Gaia got mad because they're different, and he wasn't being kind to his children because they were different. And with the help of Gaia, the youngest child, Cronus, which is Saturn, overthrew his father and became king in his place, freed his siblings, and took his sister Rhea to wife. Okay, so Demeter is kind of like Rhea. Okay, so it's like she has the same attributes. Okay, she's like the mother of Earth. Okay, so there's this symbolism all tied in, and it's confusing because they changed the names, right? So this is how Venus was born. Venus was born because Uranus got castrated by Saturn, Cronus, and then the froth of the foam of the sea is where Venus was born. Oh, and yeah, so the center of worship of Rhea was, however, on Crete. Okay, and then in Crete, there is said to be a sacred cave full of bees. In it, as the storytellers say, Rhea gave birth to Zeus. Okay, and this is crazy because she gives birth to Zeus, and I think, yeah, Zeus, and then he goes after his mother, and and Persephone's parents are Rhea and Zeus. It is a sacred place, and no one is to go near it, whether god or mortal. At the appointed time each year, a great blaze is seen to come out of the cave. Their stories go on to say that this happens whenever the blood from the birth of Zeus begins to boil up. The sacred bees that were the nurses of Zeus's the nurses of Zeus occupy this cave. Okay, so we know that Cancer has a beehive cluster on the back of it. Okay, and that is the manger of Christ, right? And we know that Jupiter rules the house of spirituality, the ninth house. So what I'm starting to understand is that Jesus has very many forms through astrology. Okay? So he's the Lamb of God, which is in Aries, right? And then he's the fishes in Pisces. So he has like different names, but in this case, he's Zeus, right? The god of this realm, okay? And it's tied to these bees, and it's tied to the beehive cluster in Cancer. Now, Cancer rules the Chariot card, okay? So going up the hill at Cappacio, we will visit one of the most important Catholic churches of this area, dedicated to Santa Maria Maggiore, later called Madonna del Granato, Our Lady of the Pomegranate. Ancient legends related to the Greek goddess Hera, Argiva, are mixed up with the Christian cult of Mary, Queen of Grace, Lady of Fertility and Abundance. You see how this is it's all layers, and they just kept using the same symbolism, but it's going through the different cultures. Yeah, so that's crazy. So this is the church, and of course this is the Virgin Mary now, just like Hera, holding a scepter with a pomegranate with the calyx crown on top, with Christ, right? So there it is there in the church. Madonna del Granato, Our Lady of the Pomegranate, who by virtue of her epithet and the attributes of the pomegranate must be the Christian successor of the ancient Greek goddess Hera. There you go. And there's a painting, another painting, famous painting, Girl with the Pomegranate. This is the most famous painting of Sandra Botticelli, okay, which is all the angels around Virgin Mary, and Christ is holding the pomegranate. Okay, this one is by Leonardo da Vinci, Madonna and the Child with a pomegranate. Okay, you can't see the pomegranate too well there because it's blending into her dress, but there it is. Okay, here's another one that Sandro Botticelli did. Okay, Christ is holding the pomegranate because it's the seed of the gods, right? So this is known as the Magnificent. In Latin, for my soul magnifies the Lord. Okay, it's the Song of Mary. And this is all tying into the visitation. All this artwork is tied to what happens in the sky. Okay, it is mind blowing. Okay, and I've tied all these different characters to different times of the year in the sky. Okay, in the narrative, after Mary greets Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth, who is pregnant with John the Baptist, and later moves within Elizabeth's womb. Oh, sorry, the latter moves within Elizabeth's womb. Elizabeth praises Mary for her faith, using words partially reflected in the Hail Mary. And Mary responds with what is now known as the Magnificat. The Magnificat is one of the 8 most ancient Christian hymns and perhaps the earliest of the Marian hymns. So the divine feminine, right, is all tied to the pomegranate. Okay, additionally, the breaking of the pomegranate in front of the house door could also be performed at other times. For example, it was used in some places in Greece on September 1st as a magical means to avert death, because the fall, everything's dying, right? So pomegranate is immortality. It was believed that on this day, Charos, the personification of death, which is Charon, determined who was going to die during the year. The breaking of the pomegranate was also used in the past by newlyweds. Now we know that, okay, and they're talking about using it at a funeral. And yeah, so there it is again. Now here it's showing it like a child on one side and the seed, right? This is painting. Now this is, I cut this open, okay? And often, if you get a perfect one, you'll get this 6-pointed star. Okay? It's the Star of David inside the pomegranate. Okay? This is why the Star of David is tied to Christ, is tied to the pomegranate. Okay? Now, that's when you cut it from, like, split it right in half. Now here, when they have this kolava at the funerals and the memorials, they make it into the Red Cross. So this is why you have the Knights of Templars, they all have the Red Cross, okay? Because it's tied to immortality, pomegranate. Now this painting is what blew me away, okay? This painting, you can go on the Wikipedia page for pomegranates, it's there, okay? It's Christ suckling the breast, but it's a pomegranate. You can see it's opened up. They show the seeds inside, like the seeds of the breast, or the, you know, the way the breast is, you know, for the milk. He's drinking the pomegranate, and look, he has the Red Cross on his head with all the little jewels, right? And she has the moon cycles around her head. Okay, so this is really, you know, esoteric. Okay, and there is a blood moon on her forehead. And this is also looking a little bit like a blood moon. Okay, now this scarab beetle, which is Cancer, where the beehive cluster is, it's always shaped like this. And this is kind of like how our skull or head is shaped like this. The pomegranate, when you cut it this way, it comes into the Trinity as well. Okay, so it's like the peace symbol as well. Okay, but it's the Trinity, right? This is Persephone, and she's got the blood seed of the pomegranate on her forehead. Okay, so now this is where it gets crazy, more crazy, because it ties to Orion constellation. Side, whose name is Boshidia, meant pomegranate. Okay, so Orion's wife, who is Side, or CD, is a pomegranate, boasting that she was more beautiful than the goddess Hera, Juno, which is tied to pomegranates, right? Hera responded by banishing her to Hades and possibly transforming her into a pomegranate tree. It is interesting to note that the constellation Orion returns to visibility in the night sky when the pomegranate fruit begins to form and ripen. Okay, so right now, if you go out at night, Orion is way, way up in the sky all night long, okay, and you can watch it. And that's why the pomegranate comes out, because his wife was a pomegranate. Okay? So Saudi, the first wife of Orion, the mother of daughters of Medaochi and Menipi, I'm sure I'm saying those wrong. She was cast by Hera and into Hades because she rivaled the goddess in beauty. Yes. Modern scholars interpreted the proposed marriage of Orion to Side pomegranate as a mythical expression for the ripening of fruit in the season when the constellation of Orion is visible in the sky. But they had two daughters. But these daughters ties to Corona. Okay, it just gets more crazy as it goes. Okay, because they ended up sacrificing themselves. They offered themselves. They thrice invoked the infernal gods, so 3 times, right? Which is the trinity of the pomegranate when it's cut a certain way, and killed themselves with their shuttles. Okay, Persephone in Hades metamorphized them into comets, so they're comets. Okay, and here they're known as the maidens of Coronids. In Ovid's recount of the tale, the daughters of Orion remain unnamed and sacrifice themselves for no distinctly given reason, although a withered tree and gaunt goats on a barren field are mentioned and indicates the presence of the plague. Okay, so we're just living this story. Okay, it's a plague. It's a corona plague. Okay, from their ashes, 2 youths arise and lead the funeral train for their mothers, and instead of Menipi and Medicaci. Okay, so they're worshipped and they're known as Coroni. They're spelled as Coroni. Okay, now if you go Google Coroni, it's COVID, the nickname of the coronavirus that causes COVID. I've never heard of it. I don't know if you guys have heard of Coroni, but of course it's there because it's tied to the mythology. Okay. As the blood red seeds in the juice are potent symbols of fertility and menstruation, the fruit also can be associated with the goddess of marriage. Yeah, we know all this. Okay, but then it ties to the poppy. Now the poppy looks like pomegranate, right? It has the same shape. But the poppy is opium that puts you to sleep, right? And it's like the duality of the shape. Okay? The pomegranate gives you death and rebirth, but the poppy puts you totally like to sleep. So there's a duality, a polarity going on there. So here we have pomegranate, here we have the poppy. Okay, see the symbolism. Yes, and all of these significant reasons not to indifferent to this fruit, so rich in the symbols, taste, and uses, nourishment for the spirit of the body, so masterfully described. Okay, there's a poem. The tree towards which you stretch your infant hand, the green pomegranate with its beautiful vermilion flowers. Right, the vermilion. There's a vermilion bird in Chinese mythology that goes right through. Where is that? It's not the dragon. It's the bird. I think it's around Sagittarius. Yeah, the bird. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's all tied to the pomegranate. So here's a poem, the tree in which my darling would point the childish wonder, the green pomegranate yonder, the prism blossoms bright. Lone in the silent garden, the young green mantled o'er it. In thou doth June restored it in summer warmth and light. So it's tied back to Juno. Though of my stem and blossom, this withered stem so stricken, thou who my days didst quicken, my one, my last delight, in the cold earth thou liest, in the black earth forever. Sunshine and love can never for thee break winter's night. Sorry. Anyhow, it's everywhere, basically. Okay, you can go research it some more if you want, but it's literally everywhere. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg on all this. Okay. Now, the high priestess also has pomegranate tree behind her. Okay. So is this Siddhi, Orion's wife? Okay. These are also the pillars are also depicted with pomegranates on top at sometimes. Okay, and I'll show you pictures of that. So we got the high priestess, but her symbol is the moon. Okay, so the moon is tied to all this, right? It's super important. Okay, here's the pillars, the Boaz and the Jachin. These are pomegranates, and then you have the lily work on top of them. But this would be the calyx. It's almost like, they just changed it into lily, but this is like the top, the crown of the pomegranate, right? And yeah, the Solomon temples in Jerusalem. Those are the two pillars. Some Jewish scholars believe the pomegranate was the forbidden fruit of the Garden of Eden. Yeah, and it's all, you can go and look at all the different times that it's mentioned in the Bible. Song of Solomon, it's mentioned in the Bible a lot, the pomegranate. Here is the keys. I think it's on one of the churches in Rome, and these are pomegranates. And the fleur-de-lis, the lily, right? So is the fleur-de-lis, like the lily on top of the pomegranate, is that the crown, right? It's all tied to the French, right? This is like really important. So it all goes back to France, the Judgment of Paris, the whole mythology of the Judgment of Paris, and the Olympics in 2024, all in Paris. This is a huge story we're living in. It's fascinating. This is the Vatican's keys, right? And this is kind of his hat. It's like starting to look like a pomegranate to me, like with the crown, right? It's like, look, it's starting to look like the egg or the pomegranate. It's got the same shape. So pomegranate figures in many religious paintings like Sandro Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci, Virgin Mary, Infant Jesus. It's in the Quran. The mosaic was chosen as an object of the 44. 44 means death in Gematria. On a BBC Radio 4 program, The History of the World in 100 Objects. So they picked 100 objects in the world, and this one was number 44. Okay, tied to death and rebirth. It's they believe that it's Jesus. Okay, and he's got pomegranates beside him. This is a really old mosaic. Yeah, it's crazy. It's everywhere. Jewish tradition. Oh yeah, here it's tying into the 613 seeds, and this ties into the commandments of the Torah. Okay, so it's the forbidden fruit. Here they have the pomegranates as the forbidden fruit, tied to Rosh Hashanah, okay, the Jewish holiday. It's literally everywhere. There's a pomegranate tree, which would be Orion's wife. The single fruit grew on that tree, a bright pomegranate fruit. Persephone stood up in the chariot and plucked the fruit from the tree. So this is where the chariot card ties into everything, right? And how, like I said, the Cancer scarab beetle, which was originally the Cancer constellation, okay, was a scarab beetle originally, and that, in a sense, is a pomegranate, right? It's the way it divides up into the Trinity. So she's reaching out of the chariot card ruled by Cancer up to the pomegranate. Then it's saying here, her is to divide the fruit, and having divided it, Persephone ate 7 of the pomegranate seeds. Now 7 is the chariot card, number 7. Okay? You see how it's all interwoven. The Greek mythology, the pomegranate was known as the fruit of the dead and believed to have sprung from the blood of Adonis, and that's the whole mythology of Venus throwing herself at Adonis, and him rejecting her, and then she gets angry, and then he dies. Like some depictions, he dies from a bull, And then the blood from him, as she's hovering over him, drips on a flower, and that is supposed to be tied to his blood dripping, right? But you know, it's the blood is the pomegranate, the blood. And this basically they're saying the blood is pomegranate blood. It looks like blood, right? So even today, young brides in certain Greek villages where Greek superstitions, custom, and traditions are still strictly followed, throw pomegranates through the door of a new house in such force that the pomegranate bursts and scattering into seeds. I mentioned that before. And then it's tied to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a garden of pomegranates. There's a book, right, published prior to him entertaining the Stella Matutina. Okay, so this is really, really getting esoteric here. His writings and teachings provide much of the foundation of modern Western occultism. Is tied to this Garden of Pomegranate book. Okay? And they're saying here, calming the mind and projecting out of the body while laying in a pomegranate field. This is tied to Jesus. Astral projection of how Jesus taught his disciples the process of calming the mind. So basically Jesus was teaching astral travel, and they were doing it lying in a pomegranate field. Okay? It's just mind-boggling, just honestly. Here, the Garden of the Pomegranates. This is how you can find it. This is the book. And then he dedicates the book to Aleister Crowley. Okay. Additional 320-page Kabbalistic text work titled Scrying on the Tree of Life. So there's two books, and sometimes they merge them together. So here's a sweater I saw on Etsy, I think, and you got the two pillars, the all-seeing eye, tears. Is that the tears of Ophiuchus? I know the tears of Ophiuchus are amber crystals, but you got the pomegranate and you got the triple moon. Okay, this triple moon goddess, there it is. This is the blood moon with the crown. Okay, this is why Jerry Garcia ashes were spread on a blood moon. Okay, after his last album, he was doing Hindu music. Okay, but the blood moon is tying into immortality. Okay, and this is the crown of the calyx. So, tradition of medicinal applications. The pomegranate seed is a wonderful source of fiber, vitamin C, vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants, flavonoids. And it is praised for its anti-inflammatory properties. You can also use the skin of it and grind it up, or just chop it up. I use it, and you drink tea. It's high in vitamin C, just the skin of the pomegranate. They use it in cosmetics, anti-aging. Is evergreen throughout the year, enabling thus the human mind to attribute to immortality of the soul. In time, the many seeds of the single fruit have come to stand for prosperity. It's like the evergreen tree, right? It's immortality. Okay? So Carl Jung believed that the pomegranate, when it appeared in dreams, is like the phallus, an emblem of fertility and healing. Yet fertility is not always something physical. It can refer to the mind and its creative powers, or to the psyche, pregnant with archetypes. It can also pertain to the heart and its abundance of love. I take the pomegranate to be a very special goddess symbol of our inner riches. Its seeds are our wisdom, joy, and ability to bring out change. Let's plant our seeds into the world this new year so we can eventually transform it into the sacred garden of Aphrodite. Wow, that is like really amazing. So yeah, I know that was a bit long, but I wanted to let you guys know that it does tie to the triple goddess. And if you've taken my course on the moon, you'll understand what time of year the triple goddesses are all aligned to and how they represent your own journey in life. Okay? And it's, yeah, really tied to the cardinal cross and the seasons of the equinoxes and solstices. So yeah, we have winter solstice tomorrow, and I would recommend getting a nice chalice cup. And this Christmas, why you wear your crown at your, where we have these, pull open your crackers and you put a crown on your head at Christmas, right? That's your pomegranate crown, your chalice, and you're celebrating rebirth of the sun, right? It's all tied to Jesus and rebirth. And he's tied to the pomegranates because of him teaching his disciples, right? Why they were teaching astral travel. It was always tied to the pomegranates. It's like your ability to see through the veil and be able to transform yourself. Okay, so happy Christmas, happy winter solstice, and bliss to you guys. I'm so excited. I'm gonna get everything going again and up and running again, all the school in January, and I'm gonna get this book out, and it's getting really, really crazy for me because it's like tied into our history, it's tied into North America, how everything is tied into the rebirth and your immortality. So God bless you all. Merry Christmas.